I'm Larry Buxton, interim pastor at Sterling United Methodist Church, and today is Good Friday, the day Jesus spent dying on the cross because of us and for us. We've asked the non-clergy members of the staff at Sterling United Methodist Church to read and reflect on the traditional 7 last words of Christ spoken from the cross. We hope and pray that their reflections will inspire you and strengthen your faith today.
And I am the church's admin assistant. I have the first of the 7 words. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. Even while hanging from the cross, Jesus was asking God to forgive those who had put him there. Jesus was thinking not of himself, but praying for others. Can we do as Jesus did and pray that God will forgive them and us too? May God bless you in this season.
My name is Heather Toth, and I'm the Director of Children's Ministries at Sterling United Methodist. I have the second word to share from Luke chapter 23, verse 43. Truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. What is paradise, if not the knowledge that we can go to heaven? Jesus was hung on the cross between 2 thieves. One of them recognized who Jesus was and asked him to remember him in his kingdom. Jesus responded that he would be going to heaven. How amazing is it that Jesus took a sinner and not only acknowledged him at his time of death, but then offered him salvation? I love this passage because it gives me hope. I know that as long as I look to Jesus during all times, even those times that are shameful, he will always be there to offer grace. I think of all the times I didn't make the right choice. Maybe I didn't listen to what God wanted me to because it was easier to ignore. Or the times that my prayers weren't answered the way I thought they should be. So I doubted his plan for me. I am so humbled to know that as long as I come back to Jesus and ask for forgiveness and try to do better, he will always be there for me. And he not only will be there for me, but he will go beyond forgiveness and grace, which is what I asked for in those circumstances. But he makes sure I know that I will always be welcome in paradise. May God bless you during this time.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Lofquist. I am the Director of Kids Under Construction Preschool, and I have the third word of the cross. Jesus said to his mother, "Woman, this is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "This is your mother." John 19, verses 26 through 27. Jesus is making sure that his mother will be taken care of after his death. He is entrusting her care to his beloved disciple, John. The reason why this passage resonates with me so much is not because of Jesus' continual unselfishness and concern for other people. My thought goes to his mother and how difficult and excruciating this must have been for her to witness. I believe that moment Mary understood the prophecy that was foretold that her son would do great things, but that one day she would feel as though she was run through by a long sword. It is said that losing a child is the most painful thing that could ever happen to a human being. But every step of her path led to that moment of releasing her son to the world. All of this reminds me of a poem by Khalil Gibran that I would like to share with you. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And although they are with you, they do not belong to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let the bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. May God bless you during this time.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Christensen, and I am the Director of Operations here at the Sterling United Methodist Church. I have the fourth word of the last 7 expressions of Jesus on the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? As it is written in Matthew 27, verse 46, and also in Mark 15, verse 34. Scripture tells us that from the 6th hour to about the 9th hour, a great darkness came over the land. And it was around that 9th hour that Jesus cried out loudly this question. Some of you probably know that David wrote these words and asked this question in the first verse of Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me? So far from the words of my groaning? On this particular Good Friday, we might also find it appropriate to direct David's question to God, just as Jesus did. A darkness has come over our land, the whole world, in the form of this pandemic. My God, why have you abandoned us? Can't you hear our groans? Can't you hear our prayers? Why don't you save us? Psalm 22 ends with these 2 verses. Future generations will be told about the Lord. They will proclaim his righteousness to a people yet unborn, for he has done it. Jesus has done it. He has saved us. He died on a cross to save us. And he answers our groans, and he answers our prayers. And now it is up to us to tell future generations about the Lord Jesus. And with faith, this darkness too will be lifted. We will survive this crisis. May God bless you in this season.
My name is Katie Shiflett, and I am the Director of Youth Ministries and Communications here at Sterling UMC. I have the 5th word of the cross. I thirst. John 19:28. This is Jesus' only human expression of his physical suffering. He is in shock and has experienced tremendous physical pain, from carrying his cross with a crown of thorns on his head to being nailed there and hanging for hours. Yet rather than cry out in pain or shock or speak to any of his other physical suffering, he chooses the words, I thirst. And I think this points to something more than physical thirst. Jesus is thirsting in the spiritual sense. He is thirsting for the love of his Father, who for the first time has turned his back on his Son. Jesus thirsts for his mission to be complete and for the salvation of his brothers and sisters as he takes on the sin of the entire world. This thirst is something that we can relate to and reminds us that Jesus felt the physical pain and suffering that we have also experienced. Yet, it also reminds us that even though he did not need to experience this suffering, he did so in order that we might be able to spend eternity with him in heaven. May God bless you in this season.
Hi, my name is Dana Smedley, and I'm the finance assistant at church. I have the 6th word of Jesus Christ on the cross as recorded in the gospel. The verse is from the 19th chapter of John, verse 30. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Upon reading this verse, my first feeling is complete sadness. Jesus is dead. He knew this day was coming. He agonized it over in the garden. He knew some of his apostles would abandon him. He endured such brutal suffering on the cross, and now his life is over. Then I start to think about how his words, "It is finished," mean so much more. It is finished is Jesus' relief that his suffering on the cross and this earth is over. It is finished is triumphant in that Jesus accomplished everything that God planned for him to do. It is the victory shout to those followers who were gathered near the cross. It is finished is a declaration of Jesus' obedience to God's plan. It is finished is the incredible gift that he has given us by redeeming us with his death on the cross. May God bless you in this season.
The 7th word and last word of Christ is found in Luke 23:46. Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." What a thing to consider, really, somebody's last words. If we're in the position to know that something is going to be our last words, if we have that grace, then oftentimes we would choose to make them words of love, words of encouragement, or maybe instructions, or maybe something that's a combination of all three. And that's where we find Jesus. He says these words, or prays this prayer: "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." And he breathes his last. Everything in Jesus' life, his birth, his work, his teaching, leads up to this moment. These words will summarize the trajectory of his entire purpose on earth. And what does he do? He points us to the Father. He takes on the sin and the shame and the guilt of the world. He offers himself in our place. And at the end of the most awful time, at the end of the most horrific experience and the most grueling death, he throws himself at the Father and he lets go. He points us to the Father with his last words, so that his last words can be our first words, so that we know where to go when we're faced with despair, uncertainty, isolation, grief, and suffering. With his life and his death, he points us to the Father, so that we know that we're not alone, and so that we know where our heart longs to be.
At the stars in the night, I wonder. At your lightning in the sky, I shudder. Your glory is a blanket that covers every living thing. I'm in awe at the majesty of who you are. Your love is a seal burnt inside my heart. All of the day I want to be where you are, Holy Father. And it feels like there's not enough praise inside me. With all these words, all my heart can sing is holy. You are holy.
Jesus Christ, you bled your love, laid down yourself, and gave me life. In naked shame you hung and you were lifted high. Here I lay in awe and wonder. I am afraid, for no one's ever sacrificed and loved me this way. So on my face I fall under your heavy grace. Here I lay in awe and wonder. I'm in awe at the majesty of who you are. Your love is a seal burnt inside my heart.
All of the day I want to be where you are, Holy Father. And it feels like there's not enough praise inside me. With all these words, all my heart can sing is holy. You are holy. Jesus Christ, you bled your love, laid down yourself, and gave me life. In naked shame you hung and you were lifted high. Here I lay in awe and wonder. I am afraid, for no one's ever sacrificed and loved me this way. So on my face I fall under your heavy grace. Here I lay in awe and wonder. Oh, oh, and I wonder. Oh, oh, and I wonder. Jesus Christ, you bled your love, laid down yourself, and gave me life. So naked shame you hung and you were lifted high. Here I lay in awe and wonder. I am afraid, for no one's ever sacrificed and loved me this way. So on my face I fall under your heavy grace. Here I lay in awe and wonder. Oh, oh, and I wonder. Oh, oh, and I wonder.
May God bless you in this season.